Hey everybody, welcome to part 3 in a series of videos for Hyperspace by Pearson Games. Now in this specific video I'm actually going to show you some gameplay for a two-player game between the Skiff and the Fungi. So in this game, my objective here is to show you actual gameplay. My objective here is not to show you ultimate strategy for either one of these races. So that does mean that I'm going to be making stupid moves, and the reason why I'm going to make those stupid moves is because I want to show you as much gameplay as possible in as little time as possible, because I could make this like an hour and a half long video where I sit there and go wah 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 like a really bad episode of Charles Schultz Peanuts from TV, where all you're going to hear is wah 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 wah, and you're going to get bored. Don't want that to happen, so my objective here is to make this quick, make this clean, show you as much gameplay as possible so you can figure out if Hyperspace is going to be a game that's great for you and your gaming group. So without further ado, I have the game set up for a two-player game. Let's go ahead and start a game between the Skiff and the Fungi. But one important thing I need to mention, this is a prototype copy of the game. It is not the final version of the game, which means the stuff you're seeing here is different from the final version of the game. I mean, you can go look and see the tech track is different, the race boards are different, and the rules are going to be a little bit different from what's printed. I'm using the current version of the rules for this playthrough, but some of the stuff on the boards is going to be a little bit different. I can't help that. My objective is here to show you some gameplay. So without further ado, it's the Skiff who are going to be player number 1, which means they start with 1 hyper token. The Fungi are going to be player number 2, which means they get 2 hyperspace tokens. So let's go ahead and start the game. So to start the game, every single player gets 3 actions, and in the original version of the game, that's tracked with this little token. In the final version of the game, you're actually going to have 3 action tokens, which you'll use to track those, but that's neither here nor there. First person with 15 victory points gets to call the end game if they want. Every single player has their 6 starting techs, 2 of their personal ones, plus 4 of the ones that they draw from the tech tree. Here's the rest of the potential solar systems that could be involved in our empire here. This board has all been randomized. Let's go ahead and start the game. So the first thing we are going to do is we've set up all our player boards with our special things, which is specific to the Skiff, which means they start with 4 Corvettes on top of the board. It matches their special ability, which allows them basically just to warp into various sectors of space. There's a story reason behind it, all about time travel, but I'll leave that up to Doctor Who. Let's go ahead and start here with our very first action we want to do with the Skiff. So we have 2 of every single resource, and we want to either scavenge to gain resources, or we want to explore to start gaining some of the awesome, cool abilities and extra victory points. And if you watch the other videos, you'll know that exploration is something you want to get done as quickly as possible, because the first person to get to the bottom of the track is probably going to prevent somebody else from getting to the bottom of the track, and that's going to deny them some victory points. So action number 1 we will perform is we are going to do a probe into this sector of space. So we have our wonderful little marauder ship here, which is going to probe the section of space. That takes 1 action, but since we're probing, it does take 2 atomic tokens. We will take those 2 atomic tokens out of our storage. We have spent them, and we will reveal this section of space, and we will find HD 22781. And by the way, there are some references in this game to Star Trek. I think there's a Star Wars reference in here, at least 2 of them that I found. And I think there's 2 Babylon 5 references. There may be more Star Trek references. I was not a big Star Trek person, so I cannot tell you, but I bet you they're in there also. So we have discovered a sector of space that has 2 continents. We will see that there is 1 piece of scavenge there. We still have 2 of our actions left over. We have no more atomics, and we don't produce a lot of atomics. So the next thing we will do is we will build a colony. Now a colony will cost us 1 action. We have 1 action left over. It also does cost us 1 metal. We'll cash in that metal, and we will build a colony. If you forget, colony, 1 metal, 0 attack, 6 defense. Now we got to figure out where we want to build this. Well, we know that atomics allow us to explore, but we also know that these scavenge tokens can be turned into organics, and organics can be either atomic or metal, so they're also a better thing to do. And when it comes to scavenging, it is first come, first serve. So we will build our colony there, and we will know that we now produce 2 metal, and we will update our income track to represent exactly what we are also gaining. On top of all this, since we have probed a sector of space, we are now going to move up on the probe track. We are the blue. We will move here to this section, which will give us 1 hyper token. Now remember, hyper tokens can be used to improve our colony's defenses. Hyper tokens can be used as resources, and 3 of them can also be used to cash in for a valuable, very, very valuable victory point. We have taken 2 actions. We have 1 action left over, and we are going to go ahead and do a scavenge action as our 3rd action. So we will simply spend our action token. Scavenging just uses one of our key actions. It does not use any of our resources due, and we will claim this as organic, this as organic, and then finally we will claim this as an organic. We now have 5 organics in our inventory. If you're a test pilot player, you'll know that I'd be breaking the rules right now, but that's the old version of the rules. The new version of the rules, I am not breaking the rules. That's the end of the Skiff player turn. Now we get to go over to the Fungi player. Now for the Fungi player's turn, they are very interesting because they have 1 weakness for their empire, which can be potentially crippling if it's not taken care of very efficiently. The negative about the Fungi player is that if they take any actions that uses resources, they have to spend their organics first before they can spend their metals and before they can spend their atomics. So if I were to start my turn and the very first action I took were to salvage these wonderful 3 organic tokens, I would have nothing to spend my other tokens on, so it's actually not a good move to do as your very first action. Also, additionally, probing is very, very nice, and it's something we definitely want to do because, like I said, it is a race to discover this board. First come, first serve, especially when it comes to this track right here, which we see gives us hyper tokens, it gives us victory points, and also gives us some of these secret cards. So the first action we will do as a Fungi player is we will spend 1 action, and we will explore this section of space. We'll flip this over, and since we explored a section of space that requires 2 atomics, and we have to spend organics before we spend our atomics, there goes our 2 organics, but we have discovered another section of space. We will add a unknown alien race here. We will add a secret token. This is actually a very nice start for the white player right here. And that is also going to show us that we need to add 2 more salvage tokens, which means this player is really, really happy right now about the wonderful discoveries they just managed to make. They have a race, they have more salvage, which means they can start doing more other actions. So that's actually very good. So now we have a couple decisions we can do at this point. We can build a colony. Colonies are nice. They're victory points at the end of the game. They also allow us to expand our empire. We could also allow us to salvage, and building a colony will allow us to build a star base. The star base will allow us to salvage this section of the board, which means we can draw this card and add a lot of fun to the game. So before we do anything, let's remember to advance on the probe check. That is going to give us 1 hyper token. We now have 3 hyper tokens for the white player. Let's go ahead and figure out what we want to do for our second action, which is pretty darn obvious, at least for me at this point. We will build a colony. Now the nice thing that this race has is all colonies have 0 cost and resources. We'll build a colony right here in this sector of space. We could have built it over here, which actually would have been a good decision for production, but not a good decision for salvage. And you'll see why when we get to that point. Although we see that this is going to make us produce even more atomic, which is actually a good thing, because atomics power your war machine. Metal allows you to build the war machine in the first place. So we'll advance our track to show that we are now producing 4 atomics. We see that the blue player is producing 2 metals and 1 atomic, so everything is set correctly. That is the second action for this player. For our third action, we could explore some more, and that is actually what we will do. We will decide that we are going to explore one of these 3 sectors, because that's all we can do. But the trick is we want to figure out, do we want to be aggressive and move on to the Skiff this early in the game, or do we want to play it safe and explore different areas? Well, we're going to be aggressive. We will flip this section of the board over right here. This is our final action. We tracked that here as a third action. First action was probe. Second action was to colonize. Third action was to probe again. We will find an area with some scavenging abilities on it, and we will move down on the track. We now have 2 victory points in our empire, 13 more to go, and we can call the end game. That is 3 actions for our player. Our turn is finished. Let's go ahead and reset that. We go back to the blue player's turn. Now the blue player for their turn, let's go ahead and show you some really cool powers we can do. And let's also show you lots of fun things that we can do as the blue player. First thing we need to do though is we are starved for resources. Unfortunately, we can't move because we don't have the atomics. All we have is metal, some organics, and some hyper tokens. So we can't move yet, but we do want to definitely start building our infrastructure and make sure we're not moving too far away. And plus we got this probing and everything going on. So we actually have a lot of decisions we can make on our turn, We just need to make some good ones. And I think our good decision is to go ahead and play a little bit aggressively. We will spend one action, and that'll allow us to be a move action. We will move into the section of space. Now, we don't have the atomics to pay for that, so we will have to spend an organic to perform that move action. That is our first action. Then our second action we're going to perform is we're going to take advantage of our bonus alternate reality ability. Go ahead and read this to you really, really quickly so you can see exactly what this does. It says, pre-battle, when you build a citizen or ship or salvage it, you may place it on the tech tree. Short version of it. You may place it on the tech tree. When a battle is when a battle is declared, fun of reading upside down, you can immediately move any or all units from your sheet to that battle. We have 4 corvettes here. Our opponent here has only one simple destroyer. Let's have us some fun. So for our second action, we are going to declare a battle. Now remember, when you declare a battle, it also costs you an atomic to pay for your war machine. We'll pay for that with the organic, and we will declare a battle. And we will fly all of our corvettes into the battle that we have just declared. So now let's figure out if we have any pre-battle abilities that we want to perform. We do not have any pre-battle abilities we want to perform as a Skiff, and we look over at the white player, and we see that they don't have any pre-battle abilities that they can perform. So we're going to look at what kind of dice we are going to add to the battle. Well, each corvette is going to add 1d6 to the battle, so let's grab 4d6. We see the Marauder only adds 1 to its attack, and it says, if a Marauder is present, earn 1 medal instead of paying 1 atomic to battle. So actually, I forgot about that ability, so let's go ahead and take that organic back I spent for that battle, because I didn't even need to do that, which is actually very nice. So instead of spending that atomic, I am going to earn 1 medal, and I'll add that to my storage. So that's really, really cool. So now we have our 4 dice for the attack. We see over here that their ship is going to give them 1d8 for the defense. We will take 1 die that looks like a different color so we can tell them apart pretty darn easily. And then we simply, as the attacker, we roll our dice. And then as the defender, we roll our dice and we add up all the totals here. We're going to see that as the attacker, we have 8, plus 6 is 14, plus 1 is 15, plus 1 more is 16 from the Marauder special ability. We have a total attack value of 16. The defender has a total attack value of 6. So the attacker first is going to apply all their losses to their enemy. Well, this has a defense of 8, so it's pretty darn easy to figure out that that ship is going to be destroyed with a little bit of leftover, but we're not going to worry about that too much. They still get to perform 6 points of damage to our Empire, though, which could be pretty darn painful, because now they have 2 options as a white player. They can wipe out 3 of our corvettes, which really doesn't hurt us that much, or they can destroy our Marauder, which allows us to be very aggressive, start attacking and gaining resources from attacking, and all they need to do is spend at least 6 points of damage, which they did manage to accomplish. So they're going to decide to destroy my specialty ship instead of taking out all the corvettes. Maybe not the best decision, but that's the decision they're going to decide to do. Neither one of us has any post-battle abilities, so that is the end of that battle. That's the end of our action for that blue player. We still have 1 action left. Now, before we go on with our third action, though, we did complete a battle as an attacker. And not only did we complete a battle as an attacker, we also managed to destroy an enemy ship or unit of some kind. So since we did manage to do that, we will move down 1 point on the aggressor battle track, which means we now get to draw a secret card. So now again, with the secret cards, you read the top, do exactly what it says, and then you hide the bottom information from the other players. That is your extra victory points at the end of the game. So it says, Gray Goo. Choose and destroy up to 3 metal worth of rival ships. Now it says rival ships. Unfortunately, our opponent has buildings, fortresses. They have a citizen, and they happen to have a starbase. Now, starbase does not count as a ship. The only thing that would count as a ship would be their special ship. If they happen to have one, they do not do that. Their special ship is actually a bat rat spider, which has some pretty cool powers. And since they do not have anything, we can't actually do anything with this card at all, except gain a victory point. So we'll put that down in our storage as 1 victory point we have at the end of the game. We still have 1 action left over. And for that final action, I think we are going to do an explore action. Now, it probably would have been smart of me to not do an explore action, but again, I'm not playing right now to show you the most efficient way to play the game. I'm showing you as many actions as possible so you can see exactly how the game is played. So we're going to explore right over here. So that's going to be our final action. And actually, I'll just explore here, just make it simpler. Try to keep my empire together. So we're going to explore right here as my final action. I need to spend 2 atomics to pay for the ships to fly to that sector of space. And I need to decide which one of the ships are going to do that. I'm only going to fly one of my ships over there. I will flip the board over here to show what we have found. And we have found an area of space that has a hyper token. And it's an area of space that does have a whole bunch of salvage, which makes this another nice area of space. Unfortunately, all of our actions are spent. Our turn is over. We now get to go back to the white player. Now, the white player has suffered a little bit of a setback, but actually not that bad at all. They have some resources, they have some things they can do, and they will go ahead and do that right now. The first thing we want to do is we want to build a star base in this neck of the woods. So we know a star base costs us 1 metal and 1 action to do so. We will spend 1 action, and we will spend 1 metal. Now, normally we'd have to spend the organic first, but we went through them smartly, so now we can start using our metal resources. We will put the metal and spend it, and we will build a star base in this neck of the woods. That is our first action. Our second action is going to be one of 2 things. We will either, 1, build another colony, which allows us to collect more resources. And if we have a colony here, when we actually produce, we're going to get more organics. Now remember, organics are what we need to power our empire, and they're a nice wild card. Or we can scavenge and gain a whole bunch of resources that way, and I think that's what we are going to do. So we will perform a scavenge action as our second action. We will pick up these scavenge, and we will pick up that scavenge, and I really don't think we want all the scavenge quite yet because of how the game makes you spend. Actually, what the heck, I'm just going to go ahead and do this, make this nice and super simple. We have done our scavenge there. We have gained all the scavenge, and now we get the question mark. So we will place this over in the pile, and we will draw another card. Again, this is all our second action only. Our first action was to build a star base. Our second action was to scavenge, and we see that we have, well, the exact same card again, except this one has a different victory point value. So it says, Grey Goo, choose and destroy up to 3 metal worth of rival ships. Well, we're going to do this with quite a smile. So we see that the Skiff costs 1 metal per corvette, and the only ships they have out there are corvettes. So we are going to return the favor for what they did, and we will smile. And again, this will be worth 2 victory points at the end of the game, but we're not going to let our opponent know that. We know that we have 4 victory points. Our opponent has either 1 or 2. Well, that's all they have, so we know that we are ahead of them in the game here. So just to make sure our tracks are all up to date where we need them to be, make sure I didn't forget anything here, we see that both of our players have explored at least 1 section of space. We have explored 2 here, 1 section of space over here. We see that the Skiff players performed 1 battle. Nobody has performed any research yet, so why don't we go ahead and take a moment to do some research just to show you how that's done. We will take, as our third action, we will go ahead and take a research action. Now the reason why we're doing this is because we, as the white player, get bonuses if we manage to get past our drone level here, and that's one of our racial powers, so that's why we're going to do this. So we have a couple different abilities we have here. I'll go ahead and pick them all up and let you know what we have here really quick. We have battle. All your dice with a face value of 1 can be set to their highest value, so 1 can become an 8 on an 8-sider or a 12 on a 12-sider. We have chameleon screen. Swap any or all of your ships in the battle for one with a different ship. Well, logistics. 1 hyper token. Discard a hyper token to get an extra action at the end of your turn. Or we have stasis fields. Increases our defense. Well, I already know which one I want to be using. I want to be using the hyper token because we have hyper tokens. So we will build logistics, which will cost us 1 atomic. Remember, we can't spend atomic as long as we have organic. So we'll spend 1 organic. And then we choose 1 rival to gain 1 organic. Well, we know who our rival is, so we will give them 1 organic, which isn't that big of a deal to us because now we get a magical 4th action and the chance to do some more things. First, let's draw our new tech card to replace our spent tech card, and it'll be Space Warp. Swap the position of 2 systems from wherever they are as long as you have a starbase. That's a short version of that one. So now we have a fourth action. The nice thing about logistics is it says discard a hyper token to get an extra action at the end of your turn. Only use once per turn. Well, we can very easily spend that hyper token and we will use it to get that one extra action. And with that extra action, we are going to perform a build action. So our build action is we are going to build a destroyer, which costs us 2 metal, which will be this organic and this organic. And we will build our destroyer that we lost, and we will build in this sector of space where we happen to have a star base, which is one of the requirements. And then we are going to do our unlimited action, and we are going to build a couple more ships where we're going to build our corvettes. So we'll spend 1, 2 organics, and then we will spend a 3rd metal, and that will allow us to build 3 of our corvettes. And we will add all 3 of those corvettes into this section of space, and we are getting ready to advance on our opponent. So that is it. That is all 4 of the actions for the white player. It is now back all the way to the Skiff player who needs to figure out what they want to do, because they see that the enemy is quickly encroaching on them while they had a good start. Things aren't looking as good for them because they do not have a lot of units on the board. So we have 3 actions to spend, and we need to start getting ready because we see that there's going to be some battles coming very, very quickly. So we look at our special ability. It says Fugue. After dice are rolled for combat, you can choose for either you or your enemy to re-roll all dice. Once, you must accept the second result. We think we're actually going to do this because for the simple fact that we see that our resources, when it comes to ships, it's starting to get very skinny. So we need to figure out a way to afford to do that. And we only have 3 actions, and we do not have a lot of resources to do this. So it's going to cost us 2 atomics to learn that super. And it's going to give our opponent 2 organics. But we know combat is coming, and we know we need to do something very, very quickly. So what we will do is the first thing we are going to do, since we know we need atomics, is we're going to pick a sector of space that's going to give us some atomics and possibly some scavenge. So we are going to build a colony as our first action. That'll cost us 1 metal. We'll sacrifice that metal, and we will build right here in this sector of space. Now our atomic production is up to 2 right now. And then we will build a second colony that is going to cost us another metal. And we will build that colony right here in this sector of space. Tempted to build there, but I will not build there at all. And now we see that our metal production is going to go up to 3, which is going to allow us to pay for our war machine that we are going to need very, very quickly. And then our final action is we are going to build a starbase. The reason why we want a starbase is we want to start building ships towards our enemy. Now, 2 options. I build a starbase here, which would almost make sense, but we know it's going to be attacked very, very quickly. So I'm instead going to build the starbase over here in this neck of the woods. Now, I don't have a supply chain yet, so yes, I am cutting myself off, but I'm wanting this hyper token very, very badly. So I'm going to build my starbase in that section of the world. So 3rd action. Starbase costs us 1 metal. We will cash in that organic. We have built the starbase. That is all 3 of our actions. That player's turn is over. We now get to go back to the white player. So the white player on their turn, they will spend their first action, and they will do an explorer over here, which costs them 2 atomics, which we do have. We spend the 2 atomics, we explore, and we move our ships over into this neck of the woods. And very, very nice. We will advance, we will gain 1 victory point, and we will gain 1 secret. Again, reading the top half of the card, cultural exchange. Each rival gives you 1 reward. It must be different for each rival, and you choose the reward. Select from victory points, hyper token, organic, metal, or atomic. Nice. So I think we are going to be mean, and we are just going to take a hyper token. It says each rival gives you 1 reward. That means they're giving you, I'm pretty sure that means it comes from that empire. It doesn't actually come from the supply, because it makes sense as cultural exchange. Hold on. Each rival gives you 1 reward. It must be different for each rival. Gives you 1 reward. You choose reward. That's a very good question. I'm actually thinking that since it doesn't say take, it says you give 1 reward, Correct me if I'm wrong in the comments down below, but I believe when you give a reward, it doesn't actually come out of your personal supply. And again, I could be wrong, and if I am, just correct me down below, but I am going to take 1 hyper token as my reward, and then I have a victory point down on the bottom of the card. Now if we look, if we're keeping score, we have 3 victory points, plus we have 3 more. We actually already have 6 victory points. We have a pretty commanding lead, and we're not even that far into the game. But the game is not over for the Skiff player quite yet. So that was our first action for our turn. Our next action we are going to do is we need to decide if we want to do some building or if we want to do the final exploration. I think we're going to do the final exploration, but to do that we need resources. So we are now going to decide that we are going to produce. So we will produce, and remember, when you produce, you need to choose if you're going to produce atomics or if you're going to produce metals. We're going to produce atomics because we need fuel for our empire. Our empire currently produces 4 atomics, so we will take 4 atomics, and we have 1 citizen. Since we have not colonized here yet, it would have been smart of me to do that first, but hindsight is 20/20, and I actually need that action. I'm pretty sure I'm going to need it for what I want to do on my turn. Actually, I don't, but oh well, too late now. So we have gained our organic, and now we are going to explore this section of space. Now remember, at this point, the only thing we've spent is 1 action over here to explore. We spent a 2nd action to gain resources. So now our 3rd action is going to be probe this section of space. So we'll spend 1 organic, and we'll spend 1 atomic, and we will reveal this section of space right here, which is Wolf 359. We see that there is an unknown alien race in that sector of space, and we move our ship over there that is exploring that section of space. So we've spent all 3 of our actions, but our turn is not over because we will spend 1 hyper token for our 4th action of the turn, and then we will spend a colony and send it down over into this neck of the woods. That will increase our metal production by 1, and things are looking up very, very well for the white player, but things are not over for the blue player at this time. That is all of our actions. Now we get to go back to the blue player, who better start making some decisions really, really quickly. So we, as our first action, are going to build a colony. We will build a colony right here, which is going to increase our atomic production. That is our first action, and that costs us 1 metal. We'll spend the organic to do so. Our second action is we will scavenge. Now by scavenging, we will gain 1, 2, 3 organics, plus we will gain a hyperspace token, so not bad at all. Now before we go any further, I need to do a little bit catch up with some of the things I forgot to advance at a little bit earlier stages of the game, so let me go ahead and do that really quickly. We know that the blue player has explored 3 times, so I'm sorry, they've explored 2 times, so they have 2 or 3. Oh, I lost track. No, wait. 1, 2, 3 for white, so 1, 2, 3 for blue. So that means blue, unfortunately, looks like I forgot a couple times. So blue explored here, here, and here, so they actually should have 3 victory points. 1, 2, 3 victory points. And I apologize. That's what happens when you jump ahead of yourself. We also have a secret card we need to make sure we take out very, very quickly. Also, making sure I'm catching everything up, we also have white, who has managed to do a tech advance, so they would also have 1 victory point for their tech advance. So that puts us at 4 victory points and 3 victory points. I am caught up on everything. Let me go ahead and resolve this card because I did forget to do it earlier, and I do apologize. But it says, trade, gain 1 hyper token, then choose a rival. Both of you gain 3 organic. So that's actually a pretty easy one to do. So we will gain the 1 hyper token, and we will gain the 3 organics. And then our only rival who is available to choose from will also gain 3 organics. I do apologize for that. I was just trying to jump too far ahead of myself there. So we have everything caught up. So blue has discovered 3. White has discovered 3. We have 1 advance for the white player, and then we have 1 battle for the blue player. So that keeps everything all nice and honest at this point. Now that we're all caught up, we now need to get actually to the point where we have a dilemma here. So the dilemma is we can do a little denial, which may leave us open for reprisal, or we can go ahead and become very aggressive. I think what we're going to do is do a little denial, because if white manages to get over here, they'll get the final victory point from the exploration, and we do not want that to happen. Luckily, we still have 1 Corvette available to build, So we will, as our third action, we are going to do a probe action. Now remember, probing costs us 2 of the atomic resources, so we'll spend the organics to make up for that. And we will fly over into this neck of the woods, which is going to give us our first spaceship scavenge. So that's actually pretty darn cool. That's going to allow us to change up how we want to do things. And wow, that's actually probably not the best time for that to have happened. Well, we will get the 1 victory point for doing that. And we have just now given our opponent a very good chance to gain a destroyer. The final thing we will do for an unlimited action is we are going to spend 3 of our organics. 1, 2, and 3 of our organics, and we are going to build 3 more of our corvettes. Now remember, our corvettes go on our board, which is kind of a little bit of a nice little threat. That basically means that wherever our opponent attacks us, we have the ability to pull in ships into that fight. So that's actually a good thing, because it says whenever we use our alternate reality ability, it's a pre-battle ability. It helps our empire quite a bit in the war machine aspects of the game. Unfortunately, that is the last of our actions, and it's now time for the white player to go. And we've opened up quite a lot of options for them. We know what they're going to do, because the smartest thing they can do is, if they can get this, they're going to get a free spaceship out of it, and it's also going to allow them to expand across the galaxy quite much more efficiently. So the first thing they will do is they're going to build a colony. Now, it may take them an action to build a colony, but it doesn't cost them any resources to build a colony. And they'll build a colony right here. Now remember, in the full version of the game, spaceship debris or wreckage is actually salvaged from star bases, so we don't actually need to build our colony on this space. That means that this space is the better space for us. So that'll be a red and a blue. We'll advance our red and blue tracks up by 1 apiece. And that is our first action. Our second action we will do is we will build a starbase. Now, a starbase costs us 1 metal. We have to spend organic first. We will spend the organic. We have built our starbase, and then the third action we will do is we could scavenge, but we're not going to do that quite yet. We want to make sure we build something right here first, because we do have a hyperspace token for our fourth action. So for our third action, we will build a colony in this neck of the woods, and that'll add 1 more to our atomic production. We now produce quite a bit of atomic, which means we have lots of options on our turn. Things are looking up very much for the white player. And then for our final action, we will spend 1 hyper token. That'll give us a fourth action. For that fourth action, we will do a scavenge action. Actually, we don't need to do a scavenge action yet. We are just going to, I think we are actually going to produce. That's probably going to be the better decision for us at this point. So we will go ahead and produce. When we produce, we will produce 6 atomics. So that's 6 atomics. We will also produce 2 metals. Oh wait, we actually have to choose. I'm sorry. What am I doing here? I got distracted. I apologize. So we'll pull all 6 of these back, and I will do this correctly. When we produce, we are only going to produce metals because that's what we want to do. So we get the metals we needed. Sorry, I got distracted. I apologize. And then we have 1, 2, 3 citizens. So that's going to give us 3 atomics or organics. I'm really getting confused with myself. Too many terms to try to remember to sound like I know what I'm talking about, so I apologize. So we will produce 3 organics because we have 3 citizens out there on the board. And that is our final action, which costs us a hyper token. That is the last action for white. It is now back to blue. On blue's turn, the first thing they will do is they are going to take a tech advance, and they are going to produce mass production. Now, mass production is very nice. It allows us to build 2 units for 1 action, which is going to help us with the economy of actions, which will help us to get our empire built up again. So we're going to spend 2 atomics, which we will take as 2 organics. And then we'll choose 1 rival who's going to gain 2 organics. So we'll give those 2 organics over to the white player. That is our first action, and we will advance on the tech tree right here, and we will see that gains us 1 victory point. So we are now up to 5 victory points. That is our first action. The second action we are going to do is we need to gain some resources. So we are going to do a produce action. So we are going to produce 3, let's see, 1, 2, 3 metal, which is what we produce. We will produce 3 metal as our second action. And then for our third action, we need to build, but we don't know where we want to build yet, or if we want to possibly build a star base first, because right now we can only build ships here, and we can only build ships here. We want to get a little bit more forward, and remember, we have this nice backup right here when we pull in our Corvettes anytime we want. So for our third action, we are going to build a starbase. I will build the starbase right here in this neck of the woods right here. That will cost us 1 metal, which we will discard. And that is our final action, but we still have unlimited actions. Unfortunately, we don't have any Corvettes that we need to build. So we are left with 2 metal, no atomics, and no actions. That is the end of our turn. We now get to move over to the white player, who actually has lots of options for them at this point. The first thing they are going to do is they're going to build a colony right here in this neck of the woods. That'll be the last colony they can build, which costs them 1 action, but it costs them no resources because that's the fun power of that race. Next thing they will do is they will do a scavenge. So this will turn into an organic. This will turn into a nice ship they get to add to their empire. And they can build that right here since they have a starbase. Now it doesn't automatically start a fight because you have to spend an action to start a fight. But now we have lots of options on what we want to do. So the final thing we will do here, well, actually we have 2 actions left. We are going to build, and after we are done building, we are going to fight. So first thing we will do is we are going to build a cruiser, which costs us 3 metal and 1 action. So we have to spend organics first because that is our racial negative. So we spent the action. That is third action. Built that ship, and now we are going to spend 1 hyper token to take a final action, which is going to be a battle action before this player gets a chance to escape. So we will initiate a battle, and we know exactly what is going to happen when we initiate that battle. They're going to pull their Corvettes into the fight, which is going to give them 4d6, but it is going to allow us to roll a d8 and a d10. Plus, since we have a starbase, we get another d6. And that's actually not a bad ratio. We should be able to pull out of this just okay because these Corvettes do not have a lot of defense at all. So for our final action, we are going to initiate a battle. Since we are the attacker, we need to do pre-battle abilities. We have none. So we are going to get a D10, a D8, a D6, and that is it. The defender will pull in all 4 of their Corvettes to get 46. So we'll roll for the attacker first. Attacker did not roll very well at all. We got 6, 7, 8. Oh, that was a 5. That's still enough to destroy all their Corvette section. Not that bad. But how much damage are we going to take in return? So in return, we are going to take 11, 12, 14 points of damage, which is actually going to be pretty darn nasty. So let's go ahead and divvy up this damage. We did 8 points of damage, which is going to be enough to destroy all 4 of these Corvettes. So we know we'll be advancing on this track, which is very nice. So I'll grab that before I forget. Don't want to forget again. I've already forgotten a few things already this game. Now we get to assign damage as the defender. Now the defender gets to assign a total of 14 points of damage. We see that this has 10, that has 8. This has 6, and this has 6. So we are going to be a little bit nasty. We are going to destroy this colony. We are going to destroy this starbase, and that still leaves 2 points of damage we need to assign. But before I forget, we need to modify our income for this empire, and then we are going to put the remaining 2 points of damage on this cruiser, which will put it in the storage since it's not enough to destroy it. So that is everything for the end of the fight. No post-battle abilities we need to worry about unless I am missing something. Hopefully I'm not. I do not have this race memorized. It's a race I've only actually played once. I am more familiar with the other 3 races, so hopefully I didn't forget anything. So we have Geological Discovery. Gain a hyper token. Not bad. That's our... We only have 1 hyper token because we keep burning through them, so that's actually not that bad. Choose one of your colonies with at least 1 free resource slot. Place a resource token of your choice in the empty slots. Oh, that is actually nice. So choose a colony with at least 1 free resource slot. Place resource tokens of your choice in its empty slots. Well, I am thinking we're going to pick this colony right here, and we're going to fill up its resource slots with 2 metal, which I think is going to be really darn awesome because we have more than enough atomics, but not enough metal. So that's going to put us up to 3. That is 2 victory points. So right now, as things stand, we have 2, 4, 6, 8, 9 victory points. We're actually doing extremely well, and we have a pretty good chance of winning this game. Check all our tracks total here because we actually have one more thing that is going to activate. Anytime the Fungi player manages to get to the level of this drone with every one of the tracks in the play, the first time they get it, it's going to be 1 secret. Second time it's going to be a second secret. Third time they do it, it'll be a victory point. So we will immediately draw one more secret card. Again, we're racking up them victory points. It says Treachery. Choose a rival starbase or colony. Destroy it and replace it with your own from your pool. You can't pick a colony protected by hyper token. This is why those hyper tokens are very nice if you want to start protecting everything you have. And let's be really, really mean. We will destroy that, and we will replace it with that with a big, big smile. And we now have 2 more victory points that our opponent does not know about. Again, just adding things up. We have 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 victory points for us. If we were to add everything up for the end of the game right now, it would be 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 victory points right now, which is a very, very commanding lead. So you can see how the secret victory points can make a huge difference when you're playing this game. So that is all the actions for white. Is now back to blue, who has suffered a pretty bad setback, but it's not the end of the world for them. They still have some actions they can do and some potential to go ahead and recoup some of their losses. And we're going to do that with a little bit of aggression. We just need to figure out how we're going to do this most efficiently. So the first thing I am going to do is I think we are going to gain resources. We will gain 3 metal. And we will gain 2 atomics. Then for our second action, actually not even as an action, I will spend 1, 2, 3, 4 as a free action because we're going to use it to build our 4 corvettes. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then as our second action, we are going to build one of our marauders, which costs us 1 atomic. We will spend the atomic right there. And now we have 1 action left over. We need to be very, very efficient and figure out what we want to do. Well, the first thing I am going to do is we know that there's going to be a problem here, so I'm going to build or add a hyper token to that little spot so it's protected, so I don't have to worry about that happening nastiness again. And then the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to build 1 more colony. Now, a colony costs us 1 metal. Spend an action. We will build this colony. And I'm liking this location right here, which is a red and a blue. And then as a bonus action, we will add a hyper token to that location. That way it's protected from nastiness and cards and other things that can make our life very, very miserable. I believe that is all we're going to do on our turn. I would like to do more, but that is all we can do at this point. We have 5 victory points. We need to start getting a little bit more aggressive, but we need actions to do that, and we need luck to be on our side a little bit, and some better strategies, because we have not been too strategic with our actions so far. I will now, remember that I forgot to grab the organic here when I produced, and the other time when I produced, I forgot to do it too. Sorry, that's what happens when you're trying to play a Space Empire building game, 1 player, controlling 2 sides, and trying to sound intelligent at the same time while you're doing it. Should have the 2 organics for the 2 times I produced. The produced this time and the produced from that last turn when I forgot to do it. So now we get to go back to the white player, who again has 3 or possibly 4 actions if they want to blow that hyper token. So scavenging would allow us to bring that ship back into play for free, but it does use up one of our actions. Not a big deal for us at this point. The other thing we can do is we can build up and decide to just build up in general. And I think that is what we will do. So we are going to do a build action, and we will build another cruiser right here in this sector of space, and that cruiser is going to cost us 3 metal, which we have to do with organics because that is our racial negative. And our second action is we are going to build a colony, which costs us no resources at all. Third action is going to be building a starbase. But do I want to do this quite yet? I think I may not want to actually build that starbase yet. I'm trying to be smart about this. Let's see here. That's one of the things you have to be very careful about with the fungi is the fact that they don't have a lot of colonies available to them during the game, so it limits their expansion because otherwise they can expand very quickly. See, right now at this point, I am out of colonies, which prevents my ability to forward produce because you cannot build a starbase where you don't have a colony. So I could destroy one of my colonies to move further along, but I don't know if that's what I want to do, and that's some of the decisions you have to make, and some of the decisions are actually involved in the game. So I think I am going to build that starbase, but I don't know if it's going to be the best decision for me to do so. So I'll build that starbase right here. I will build that starbase, and that is going to cost me 1 metal, which we're going to spend as an organic. And then I could spend my hyper token for another action, but I do not wish to do that at this point, even though I would love to go ahead and fly in and attack. We know what's going to happen as a repercussion, so we're not quite ready to do that just yet. It's tricky, tricky, tricky. Lots of decisions in the game. I think... Don't want to leave myself open. See, the problem is right now, if I do what I want to do, I'm going to leave myself open. So it's a tough decision. I am going to call the end of my turn at this point because I think that is going to be the better decision. Actually, wait. Hold on. Ooh, actually, I forgot about Space Warp. Now, Space Warp could help me a lot. That would actually allow me to get... I'm going to do that. So we will spend 1 hyper to get that bonus action, and that action will give us Space Warp, which is going to give us another ability. But to do this, I need to spend 1 atomic and 1 organic because that's my penalty. I believe it's 2 atomics for this to gain this. Then my opponent is going to gain 2 organics. Now, as an action, I can move 2 sectors of space, which is going to be really, really awesome for this player. So I have my second tech, so we will advance. We will draw a secret, and it says Treachery. Choose a rival starbase or colony and destroy it. Oh, man. That's just mean. Gosh, I just keep getting lucky draws for the white, and I swear I shuffled these very good. It says destroy, replace with your own, blah, 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 blah. You know the rest. I am going to just be super mean. Bye-bye. Victory point. I'm happy. So that is it. Now blue is very, very frustrated. I need to figure out what we're going to do with the blue player. So we have some organics, which is good. We have some hyper tokens. We have 1 atomic, which we can use for moving. And we need atomics for battle. And I hope I haven't been forgetting to spend atomics for movement. I don't think I have, but there's a chance I have because I've been trying to do this very, very quickly. If I have, just leave comments down below and correct me, and I'll add little comments during the video here so you know what's going on. I need to figure out what we want to do. So we researched 1. We could research another that would give us a question mark. We do a double research. I am thinking that we may need to start doing some researching here and getting our special abilities out there. I think that is what we are going to do. We don't have much of a choice, and we need to start being a little bit more aggressive with our gameplay to start getting some of these victory points and see if we can pull the end game before our empire gets really, really much in trouble. So our first action is we are going to build time loop. It says basically 1 use, flip this down, and move the victory points on 1 chosen track we want. This is going to cost us 2 atomics to do so. I'll spend 1 atomic and 1 organic. And then we choose 1 rival to gain 2 organics. That is our first action, and that'll move us down to here. We will gain a secret. It says extraterrestrial predators. Take a hyper token. Choose a planet, not a homeworld. Destroy any star bases and all colonies. Oh, now we get some payback. Destroy any star base and all colonies there. Colonies with a hyper token lose the token but remain. Well, 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 well. How about a little payback? So, we will pick this sector of space right here. We will destroy this colony. Resource track goes down by 1. We will destroy this starbase. And we like that quite a bit. That was really nice. And now we will use our one-use action, which actually doesn't use an action, and we will flip this over to gain 2 more victory points. And just to make this easy to count, I will cash in these 5 for a 5 right there. And then we are going to build 1 more tech, I think. Forgot to draw a new tech earlier. Disintegrator, choose 1 enemy unit that was damaged if it is destroyed instead. If it was a super unit, that enemy gains a hyper token. Well, I think we're going to build disintegrators because that's where we're heading to very, very quickly. So we're going to pay 3 organics to make up for the atomics. That'll give us a hyper token for building a tech that gives a hyper token. We need to give somebody 3 organics. These would normally go here, but that'll magically go over there to make efficiency. And now we'll move here, which will give us 1 more victory point and another secret. Let's see if this helps us. Wow. You know, I swear I really did go through and shuffle these very, very well. This is really, really sad how these are coming out here. Extraterrestrial predators. Take a hyper token, choose a planet, not a homeworld, destroy any starbase and all colonies on it. That is pretty darn lucky on the card draws because there's only 2 of every one of these cards max. If I remember correctly, that is just really, really, really wow. Take a hyper token, choose a planet, not a homeworld, destroy any starbase and all colonies. Well, bye-bye. And bye-bye, and bye-bye, and that is really, really painful. Well, that just made things turn for a big, big difference. Draw a new tech, and we will get matter converter, trade in 1 victory point for 3 atomic or 4 metal at any time at all. So I think you're seeing how this game can have a very much a back and forth. Had a little bit of luck on the draw of these cards, but you see that we're starting to make a large, aggressive stance towards taking victory points from our opponent. We see that the white player has 3 victory points. They have 4 victory points, which we see down there, but we see that the blue player has 1 victory point, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 victory points, 8 victory points from, let's see, 1, 4, 6, 7, 8. I have 1 too many somehow. I'm sure I did something and I forgot how I did it. Anyways, you see how the game plays. I mean, I've shown you enough of the gameplay. Again, I was not trying to make the best decisions for each one of the races here. Just trying to show you the interaction and how the game can go back and forth. Right now we have 7 or 8 victory points for blue, and we have 4 victory points for white, but the game is not over for any one of our empires. I hope you enjoyed this sample gameplay video. Stay tuned for my total complete finish of this by showing my final review and my final opinion of Hyperspace.